Season 12 is officially coming to a close, and all of us here at Mobalytics hope you guys have had a great season filled with insane outplays and intense moments, whether it be solo queue, clash, or however you like to play League of Legends. Season 12 is going to end on November the 14th, which is around 2 weeks away. So today we're going to give you a list of champions to play to carry and solo queue for that last final push in an attempt to get to that next ranking tier. But don't forget just how much help our desktop app can be too, providing you guys with the best builds and runes and everything else that you need for each and every champion in the entire game. So if one of these picks tickles your fancy, click the link in the description, find out their best builds and runes, watch our free beginner's guide videos, and get stuck in with your new champion. Talking of those champions, let's dive into the video and start off in the jungle. First off, we have Udyr, and this guy is just dominating the jungle at the moment. He's being picked at pretty much every single rank, and he has a really good success rate across the board. Now you can either build him like an AP tank with demonic embrace and stacking a load of health, or you can go down the bruiser route or the one-shot route and build AD, max your Q, and watch squishies die in a matter of seconds. Udyr has a pretty unique jungle playstyle though. He just takes every camp on the map so quickly. He runs around at the speed of light, ganks people, takes objectives, takes waves, takes everything he wants, and all of a sudden he's 5 levels on everyone on the map and he's just walking around the map doing his thing. If you manage to pick Udyr alongside enchanting supports and enchanting utility mid laners, you're going to have a lot of fun too. Because what are they actually going to do when Zilean speeds you up? You charge towards them with your E, you're immune to CC, and you lock them down and burst them before they can even blink. Well, or flash. Yes, Udyr is still a fantastic jungler to go for. Ever since that rework, he's been pretty strong to be honest, but right now he's at the best, especially so in the jungle. Talking of champions at their best though, Echo is on fire at the moment. We haven't seen much of this champion this season, but ever since his recent buffs, he's been a bit unstoppable. Echo's jungle clear isn't too bad, his early ganks are pretty good too, but it's really when he gets that ultimate and once he gets a few kills and starts snowballing, you really understand how powerful he can be. Now Echo actually has quite a few different build variations, but the most popular one is going to be the Protobelt into Lichbane. The burst, the mobility, and everything else you get with this build is insane. And once you've got these items, you can dive backlines with your E, your Protobelt, your flash, and pop people down with your Lichbane and your passive. This is fantastic when you're against those comps where you just need to eliminate one priority target. Whether it's a Soraka keeping everyone healthy or an AD carry who's popping off. You dive their backline, you one-shot these targets, you get back out with your ultimate, and then you just take whatever you want from the map. Echo is one of those champions who's quite easy to pick up, but he also does have a quite high skill ceiling too. There's loads of little tricks and tips you can do around his W and his ultimate, and when you get the hang of these, ulting into a 5-stacked team with a bit of AP is going to one-shot them all. Simple as that. It really is his passive what allows him to one-shot people though, and that's why items like Lichbane are so good, because it adds an extra element to his damage alongside his passive. And alongside the auto attack reset from your mythic item, you can see why this build is so good. Assassinating squishies is not where it ends for Echo though. He can take down towers and objectives pretty quickly with his passive, and he's so damn good at tower diving too with that ultimate. So if your enemies are pushed in under their tower, they can't recall, you just dive in with your ultimate, get a double kill, take the dragon, win the game. Moving on to our third jungler though, and it has to be Zac. Over the last few months, this guy's just been getting better and better. This guy is a tanky, blobby nightmare to play against. He can gank from an insane distance with that E, and then he jumps onto you, locks you down, and knocks your head together with his Q. And then obviously, if he's got his ultimate, even more CC is on its way. Zank is not just your typical ganking tank though, he also deals a pretty huge amount of damage too, especially if you go down the demonic embrace route. And also if you've got a Magi Soul Stealer, just saying if you get that to 25 stacks, you're going to be one-shotting everyone. Then you've also got the fact he's got that sustain, which makes him really hard to kill. He's got that passive too, which actually makes him really hard to shut down as well. And all of these things combined come together to show a really well-designed and very OP champion at the moment. So if you do enjoy jungling and you haven't played Zac yet, this could be your ticket to Diamond. Let's move down into that mid lane now, and of course we're going to have to talk about Akshan first. Akshan has got to be one of the best snowballing champions in the game at the moment, and honestly he can kill you from as early as level 1 or 2. He walks up, he autos you a few times, he presses his Q, he backs off, he gets his E, he swings in, he takes you down with Ignite, he resets back out again. There really is not many other champions that can do this from as early as level 2, diving towers and snowballing games right from the off. But it isn't just stomping lanes and snowballing for this guy, because he has so much else to offer in his kit. The most obvious OP thing about this guy though is his ability to revive his entire team just by killing the right person. This alone is why this champion has been so strong since his release. And then you factor in all the other parts of his kit, his damage, his resets, his shields, his stealth, his roaming potential, and his sniping ultimate, and you quickly understand why this guy is so powerful. Akshan can be played in both the top and the mid lanes, but he's definitely having a bit more success in the mid lane at the moment. You have got to be a little bit careful blind picking him into some sort of scaling long range mages, but if you do play it well enough, there's always a way that Akshan can come out of lane ahead, whether that's roaming and abandoning lane, or just swinging around skill shots and taking them down anyway. Akshan is definitely one of those champions who can completely 1v9 if he gets fit. I've seen games where it looks absolutely doomed, but Akshan is doing okay. He comes into one team fight, he kills the right person, he gets a reset, GG well played. Well, this video is all about solo carrying, and we couldn't have another mid laner without including Zed. Over the last few months, Zed has just been dominating. Now obviously this is partly due to the fact that Zed got some buffs, but it's also to do with the fact that people are playing a lot more safe scaling mages. And guess what? Zed just locks in and licks his lips at the chance of killing these scaling powerhouses. Zed has always been such a great pick into those kind of lanes that just want to sit back, play safe and scale. Yes, he does have to be a bit careful of poke, but he can dish out his own poke himself. He gets level 6, he dives, he dives, he dives again. Simple as that. Zed is one of these champions that is a little bit inconsistent. You do kind of need that early few kills, otherwise you're not really going to be able to do your job of diving backlines and popping squishies. Some lanes you are just going to have to play safe and scale, but the thing is, as long as you aren't behind, you can still do your job. You have a few options as to how you want to carry as Zed. One is stomping the lane phase and just snowballing out of control. Two is deleting their highest priority targets and teamfights with your burst and mobility. And then you've also got the third option, which is split pushing. Getting stuck into a silent and either taking someone down or taking multiple enemies down, or just baiting and wasting everyone's time. All of these things can contribute to carrying games by yourself, and Zed is someone that you can definitely do that on if you know how to do it properly. Our third and final mid lane pick is one that may surprise you, and it's actually going to be Diana. Now I'm sure you'll all be familiar with Diana because she's been everywhere this season, mostly in the jungle, and you've probably seen her in the majority of your games, if she's not banned anyway. Well, over the last few months she did get a nerf or two, and it did move her popularity down a bit when it comes to jungling on her, but this has not affected her mid lane performance at all. In fact, she's actually got much more impressive stats in the mid lane. Now much like Zed, she can get on top of squishy safe mid laners so easily. She literally just presses QE, presses R, presses E again, and they're probably going to be dead. What a lot of people haven't realised yet is that full AP Diana is just better than the tank one now. Some people may argue that that has always been the case. But honestly, when you understand just how much damage you can deal with Diana's ultimate, it really is a press this to win the game button. Don't worry about landing your Q. As soon as you see a grouped up enemy team, flash E and R, and this should deal 90% of their health if not more. Obviously as long as you aren't super far behind. You can look to engage fights with your ultimate, you can look to clean up and flank backlines, or you can look to split push, or you can look to peel. Diana just has so many ways that she can carry and win games by herself. So if you haven't tried it yet in the mid lane, here is a reminder to give it a go. Moving down to those AD carries now, I'm actually going to start off with Samira. Now, there's not really too much I'm going to have to say about this one. I'm sure you've all seen just how scary a fed Samira is to play against. And the thing is, if you don't have too much CC and you haven't put her behind in the early game, she's probably going to roll over your entire team. So Samira is a bit vulnerable before level 3, but once she's got Q, W and E, she's actually really good in those early 2v2s. She has a good amount of burst, she can follow up CC with a bit of a gap closer from her passive, she can negate any auto attacks and skill shots coming her way with her W, and if she does kill one of them, she can kill the other one with the ease reset. But 2v2s in the early lane phase is really not that important on Samira as long as you're not turbo inting, because once you get into those team fights and you've got a few items, you've got a few kills under your belt, you just start resetting and ulting and cleaning up fights on your own. All you got to do is make sure you're not going to get stunned and interrupted from your ultimate. Maybe take cleanse if you need to, dive in with your E, your W, your Q combo, get that ultimate stacked up ready to go, press your R and watch everyone melt. Then you basically just mash your E button and reset as many times as you can and clean everyone up. Now don't get me wrong, Samira is one of the more inconsistent AD carries to play. Some games and some lanes are going to go pretty horrifically. But in those games where you get 3 pentas in one go, you're going to have a lot of fun. And when it comes to 1v9ing and solo carrying, well, there's just no question that Samira can do it. Talking of AD carries who can 1v9, of course we have to talk about Draven. There is no other AD carry in the game that can stomp and can snowball as hard as this guy. And similar to Samira, he is a little bit inconsistent because if you do get behind early game, you're probably not going to do anything. But on the flip side, if you do get too fed, the enemies won't even have a chance to surrender because you'll one-shot their nexus before 15 minutes. Draven is got to be one of the more mechanically demanding AD carries to play. You have to constantly maintain those axes, you've got to catch them to stack up your passive, but you've also got to catch them to actually keep your damage up. And of course, maintaining your W by catching your axes also adds to your damage and your snowball and your chase potential in general. But even though Draven is pretty difficult, if you can get the hang of him, you can absolutely stomp by yourself. Whether you have an enchanter by your side helping you stay alive with shields and heals, or a tanky gauging nightmare like a Nautilus, Draven can play to both playstyles, and as long as every time you die you kill them first, you're going to cash in on your passive and you're going to get more gold than them. I don't think there's any champion in the game that can get faster items than Draven can. Seriously, if you get a few kills after a bit of farm in the early game, you can go back to lane with 2 completed items before the 15-minute mark. Which, let's be honest, is absolutely unheard of for anyone else. The best part about carrying on Draven though is if you do get fed, people will have to come and try and shut you down, but when they do, you can genuinely 2v5 with your support. Our third and final AD carry is Tristana. Now Tristana is a little bit more consistent than the last two champions we've spoken about, because if you do need to, you can just sit back and farm and scale. But Tristana still has a huge amount of kill threat and snowball potential just like the other two. Now with Tristana you've got your W and your E, and the resets on your W mean that if you do get one kill or you do get a good bit of damage, you can just jump again and take them down. Tristana is all about short and sweet burst windows, or short and sweet all-ins. You've got Hail of Blades, you've also got your Q attack speed steroid, and you've got your E bomb, which is what you need to explode quickly. But when you have used all of these things, you are a little bit of a sitting duck, which is why it's so important that you make use of these things to actually take people down. But the great thing is, because of these things, you deal a lot of damage and a lot of burst in a short space of time. And once you got a few kills in the early game, you come back to lane with a mythic item and you're just going to be one-shotting people because they can't get anywhere near the minion wave. If they come close, you jump on their head with your W, you take them down, and if they try and flash away, you just jump again with a W reset. If you need to tower dive once you kill them, you get another reset with your W anyway, so you can get back out to safety. One of the best things about Tristana as well, aside from her snowball potential and kill threat in the lane, is actually her ability to tear through structures. Because of that attack speed steroid on her Q and because her bomb can be placed on towers, this means you can take them so easily and rack up extra gold with those plates. So even in lanes where you are struggling to take them down, all you got to do is stack up a big wave, crash it under the tower at the right time, and take 4 plates in one go. Well, maybe not 4, but you get my point. As the game goes on, Tristana only gets better. But to be honest, as you're so adept at stomping lanes, by the time you get to the mid game, your enemies will have probably already surrendered. Let's move it into the top lane now and start off with Olaf. Olaf has been a bit of a handful ever since his rework, but actually his stats and his performances recently are just a little bit mind-blowing. Now one of the reasons why Olaf's win rate is so impressive at the moment is just because of his sheer ability to carry, and that's what this video is all about. Some champions are very consistent, some champions can do well by just sitting back and chilling and letting the game run by itself. Olaf is not one of these champions. Basically what this champion is all about is getting into lane and just going for it. Full sending it from the very start. If your playstyle is all about aggression and you want to go balls to the wall right from the start, then you need to play this champion. You get into lane and you spam those axes and you try and take people down from as early as level 1. And if you do get a kill or two against your enemy top laner, it's probably going to be over for them, because after that you come back to lane and you just try and kill them again and again. If they come near the wave, you press your Q. If they have no flash, they can't run away. You've already shredded their resistances and now you can just take them down super easily. The best thing about Olaf though, and the reason why he can carry so many games, is the fact that you simply can't CC him. This just means if you do get fed, you run at the enemy backline with your ghost, with your ultimate, and they can't do anything but watch you kill them. It's really that simple. There's not many other champions in the game that can genuinely walk into an enemy base and take down every single enemy champion on their own. All they got to do is make sure they keep that ultimate active. They can't be stunned, they can't be taken down, they can't be killed, they just win the game. Someone that is slightly different to Olaf but still has an equal amount of carry potential is Mobalytics. Now this one is leaning towards those more lower ranks, because as you get to the higher reloads, people really understand what actually counters it. Certain champions, certain playstyles, or just not running at him and trying to fight him when he's got everything up. But at the lower ranks, Mobalytics is just winning at so many games, and to be honest, he always has done. Mobalytics has really consistent damage, he's really easy to play, you just press your Q a few times and you're already going to win the lane from that alone. You can escape ganks by using your E backwards, you can set up ganks by using your E forwards, and then once you get your ultimate, you basically just can't be killed anymore. The greatest thing about Mobalytics in the top lane is if you do get ganked, you just ult one of the two enemies, kill them, use their stats to kill their teammate. So basically the most important thing on Mobalytics is to make sure you don't die in the first few minutes and make sure you don't int it before you get your ultimate. And this isn't actually that difficult of a task either, because you can actually 1v2 in the early game without even having level 6 yet. Play around the minion waves, use that W shield to deal some good damage, and land those Qs when your enemies are isolated. The later the game goes on, you just become a tanky nightmare that can force enemies into 1v1ing you, and obviously you're going to win them every single time if you're good enough and you're fed enough. As long as you're pressing tab and keeping an eye on enemy items to make sure they've not got any QSSs, you can win the games so easily by yourself on Mobalytics. Our third and final top laner is Shen, and this one might be a little bit more obvious as to why he can carry games by himself. But in case you didn't know already, it's all about his ultimate. Yes, Shen's ultimate being global just means he can influence games and impact the map so much better than most top laners. If your AD carry is getting dove alongside their support, you can use your ultimate, you can teleport across the map, you can land a big flash taunt, turn those fights around, take down the enemy bot laners and junglers, turn it into a dragon secured for your team, and then head back to the top lane with a completed item or two. If you're struggling in lane, it doesn't matter, because sit back, wait for those ultimate opportunities, and use this to catapult yourself into the lead. Then when you do get a lead and you actually become a really good duelist, that's what not many people actually understand about Shen. This means you can just play to your strengths even more as the game goes on. You get stuck into a side lane split pushing, ready with that ultimate, but also ready to take down anyone in a 1v1 who tries to stop you. And if the situation does look a bit unfavorable, you can just taunt away with your E. Shen does require a bit more wave management than people realize. You've got to make sure you're in a position where you can actually go across the map and help people out without losing 4 minion waves and 4 plates. But if you can get the hang of this, Shen has one of the best abilities to carry games from a lane which does struggle sometimes to have impact. So if you do main top lane, why aren't you playing this champion? Let's finish off with those supports now. And first and foremost, we just have to talk about Blitzcrank because this guy is one of the most broken champions in the game at the moment. Blitzcrank is getting some more nerfs in patch 12.21, so they may make a bit of a difference, but they're probably not going to make him useless, let's be honest. This guy has been so strong since those initial changes. Now obviously everybody knows just how good Blitzcrank hook is. It's what everybody thinks about when they think about this champion. One good hook in the lane phase, you get your AD carry fed. One good hook in the late game, you secure a Baron or an Elder Dragon. There's not too much more to it apart from just how good this hook is. But actually the rest of Blitzcrank's kit is really strong too. You can charge at people with your W and knock them up with your E and then land your hook afterwards if you want to. Or obviously just press your E after you have hooked someone and knock them up afterwards. And Blitzcrank also gets that bonus attack speed when he presses his W, which is one of the reasons why he actually deals so much damage in those early 2v2s. Then you've got Blitzcrank's ultimate, which is an AoE silence, which also destroys all shields. This is absolutely amazing against so many champions with so many different shields. I mean, think of it this way, you're against the Seraphine, she's popped loads of shields on her AD carry and herself, and you walk up, you press your ultimate, you tear through the shields, and you take them down. Blitzcrank really does have so much carry potential throughout the whole of any game. Whether it's winning the lane phase, roaming and ganking mid lane with your hooks, assisting your jungler in dragon fights, or just waiting for that crucial moment throughout the game to land that clutch hook at the right time in a team fight. Talking of using abilities at the same time though, our next support is Zilean. And if you use his ultimate wisely, this champ is already one of the best champions in the game. He literally has a free Guardian Angel for any one of his teammates, and it's on a very low cooldown, especially in the late game. And you may be thinking Zilean can't solo carry, surely. Well, if you've ever seen a Zilean roam around the map with his E, double bomb people, gank the map, carry the map through roaming in general, then you already know just how incredibly strong this champion is. But even if you aren't that good, you can still do so much for your teammates when playing this champion. Because as long as you're staying a little bit out of the way, not too close to the front line, you're spamming bombs, you're spamming your speed ups, you're spamming your mini slows, and you're paying attention to your teammates' health and getting ready to use that ultimate, then you are just going to simply output so much utility throughout the course of any team fight. When it comes to solo carrying games on Zilean, you have lots of tools at your disposal when it comes to roaming and carrying the map. And if you have a jungler that benefits from movement speed, you can genuinely just follow them around the map, speed them up, improve their ganks, and help them with a couple of bombs as well. Not only that though, but you also grant your teammates the unrivaled ability to tower dive due to your ultimate. Speed them up, chuck a few bombs on their head and ult them, and they can dive whoever they want, wherever they want, without any chance of being punished thanks to that Guardian Angel that you provide with your ultimate. Now with Zilean, you can go for a bit of a support utility build, or you can just go full balls to the wall damage, and both of these are perfectly viable. Double bomb into Everfrost is a pretty lethal combo, especially alongside the massive slow that your E provides. So if you do manage to pick Zilean into the right team comp, you're definitely going to be able to carry games on your own, even though when you think of 1v9 solo carry champions, Zilean might not come to your head. He is a fantastic choice. Our third and final support to solo carry games to rank up before the end of Season 12 is going to have to be the mummy himself, Amumu. Amumu has been having a fantastic time in that bot lane for quite a while now. His win rate has been insanely impressive for quite a few patches, and he just doesn't seem to be falling off anytime soon. Ever since he got those 2 charges on his Q, Amumu support has instantly just become more viable. This means you have a really high amount of kill threat in the early game, especially against those immobile AD carries. I mean, if they don't have flash or cleanse, you just Q, you pop their flash and cleanse, and you Q again. Amumu is one of those supports that can punish people even if they have their summoners up. But then when they don't have their summoners up, well, there's nothing they can do but eat your bandage. It really is that simple in the lane phase, but then you get your ultimate and you're even stronger in 2v2s. Plus, you're now so effective in those early dragon fights and team fights in general too. Amumu's ultimate is probably one of the best team fighting abilities in the entire game. So if you're jumping into a 4v4 or 5v5 in those dragon pits early game, you just pop in there with your flash and your ultimate, you lock down as many enemies as possible, and you're probably going to win the fight. Amumu's support has incredible synergies too with certain AD carries like Misfortune for the ultimate combo, with Kalista for the insane amount of mobility and kill threat, but despite having some better than others, he still works with pretty much any AD carry. And if the bot lane isn't going too well, Amumu's roaming potential is also fantastic. If you do manage to get to the late game and they haven't surrendered already, then you just know what your job is as soon as you go into any team fight. Look for those big ultimates on as many high priority targets as possible. If you pull this off, your team is going to have a much better chance of winning the game. So get ready to receive a few honors if you do. Well, there you have it. 15 of the best champions in every role that you should consider if you want to put your teammates on your back and carry those games in League of Legends by yourself. There's a mixture of simple champions and some difficult ones here too, but all of which are performing very well right now. And in general, these picks are definitely 1v9 choices. Give these champions a go guys and let us know how you get on. Don't forget too to check out all of the new champion content all about Cassante that we've got for you coming up very soon. Keep your eyes pinned on our YouTube channel and on our website to check out combos and guides for him coming in the next few days. That's all from us here at Mobalytics today, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.